Hey everybody, John Voorhees here. Quick programming note. Federico and I are taking a couple of weeks off to enjoy the holidays with friends and family, so there won't be a show on Christmas Day or New Year's Day. We'll be back with an all-new episode on January 8th. In the meantime, though, if you're a Club Mac Stories member, we're going to be publishing our second episode of App Stories Unplugged, so be on the lookout for that. And if you're not a club member, go check it out at club.macstories.net. We do newsletters every week and every month, plus a bunch of other perks throughout the year for our club members. Thanks. Now on with the show. Welcome to App Stories, a weekly exploration of the world of apps. Today's show is brought to you by Spark from Riedel and Finances. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is my co-host, Federico Viticci. Hi, Federico.
Hey, John. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing all right. We've gotten a lot of news about Apple this week. It's been busy.
This was the surprise of the week. App Store pre-orders. You can pre-order apps like you can pre-order games or music or movies. Only there's no supply constraint when it comes to apps because they're digital downloads. But there are some interesting details that I think we should cover. So tell me, John, what's an App Store pre-order? How do they work?
All right. So you're right. Pre-orders are not something that's entirely new to Apple. They do exist for things like iBooks and movies, but we've never had them for apps. And this just showed up a couple of days ago. And initially, there are 7 games that Apple has in a special pre-order section under the Today tab of the App Store. And the way they work is that they only apply to new apps. So if you're a developer and you've got a new app ready to go, and you go into iTunes Connect, which is the developer portal for getting your apps on the App Store, you get your app all set up. And before you submit it for review, there's a special section that only appears for new apps that's called the pre-order section. And you go in there and you designate a date on which you want to release it. And it's got to be a date that's 2 or more days in the future, but less than 90. Okay. So that's the range that Apple's picked.
And this is an important point right away, because a bunch of people asked me about this on Twitter. What is preventing developers from selling vaporware on the App Store? And the important point is you actually do need, as a developer, to submit your app for review to Apple.
Right.
As you would normally do when you're selling any app or game on the App Store. Apple needs to review the app before the pre-order page is accepted and it goes live. So when you actually need to give Apple a somewhat finished product that they can review. So it's not like you can give them just a demo with 2 levels and then you sell the pre-order and then you promise a full game to people and then there's just 2 levels. You actually do need to submit the app that you want to sell. And then you can wait 3 months to finish, to polish the app, to prepare the marketing, to maybe fix the pricing. But you do need to submit the app for review, as you would normally do. So it's not like you can set up a blank page and scam people. Hopefully that won't be the case.
Yes, I think Apple's thought about a lot of these scenarios, nor can you use it as kind of a proxy for something like crowdfunding, because you actually have to have a product that's reviewable by app review, not just some idea with a video behind it or something like you might have on Kickstarter.
Yeah, and you will not get the money beforehand anyway.
Right, exactly. So what you do is when you're submitting your app for review, you say that you want it to be for pre-order, but it doesn't show up, of course, until after app review has looked at the app and actually approved it. Then there's a page that's displayed in the App Store that's just like a regular page with a couple of little differences that says you can pre-order it. There'll be a button for pre-order instead of just a buy button. And the one of the main differences, though, that's important is that you can't have in-app purchases in a pre-order. So pre-orders are for apps only, not for in-app purchases like, levels or coins or anything like that. So those are excluded. It is a bit of a stripped down version of the app's page on the App Store.
So what happens when the customer authorizes the payment? Because if I'm reading through the Apple documentation right, customers do not get charged until the download actually occurs, which means that you cannot use App Store pre-orders as a crowdfunding campaign that you get the money beforehand and then you ship the product. You only get an authorization for a pre-order, which you can track in iTunes Connect, but you do not get the money, which also means that I'm pretty sure that according to at least US regulations, the price that the customer authorizes for pre-order will be the money that they will be charged for when the pre-ordered item actually ships. Meaning, if you pre-order a game for $3 and then on launch day the game is $5, you will not pay $5, you will pay $3 because you authorized the pre-order for $3. Is that correct?
Yes, that's true, and that applies to wherever you're buying it from any country. So yes, you're charged the price that you actually authorized when you did the pre-order, which leads to some interesting possibilities, which we'll get to in a little bit. But during that pre-order period, so somewhere between 2 days and 90 days, developers can actually pull the app. But Apple's thought about some of the possibilities that play here. If you pull the app, you can't then resubmit it as a way to extend your pre-order period. You can't say, oh, on the 89th day, I pull my pre-order and then I resubmit it for pre-order and get another 90 days. You can't do that. Once that release date, that initial one set when you ask to do a pre-order passes, your ability to do pre-orders ends. So it's just this one-shot deal for a new app.
Okay. And on launch day, you get a notification from the App Store that title that you pre-order is now available. So I actually got 2 of these notifications this week.
Right.
I pre-ordered Life is Strange, which is the adventure game that used to be on PlayStation, now is on iOS. And I also pre-ordered Inside by Playdead. They are the same developers behind Limbo. And also a console game that's coming to iOS. And I woke up this morning, I had Life is Strange on my iPhone waiting for me because it was launching on December 14th. And overnight, it just became available. I got charged, and the game auto-downloaded on my iPhone.
The way that works is, as I was reading the documentation, is that did you order on your iPad or your iPhone?
On my iPhone, actually, yeah.
Yeah, because what happens is you will get the automatic download to the device that you pre-order the app on,
so
right?
So that's why, okay.
Yeah, and then on the iPad, the one that you didn't order it on, if you have automatic downloads enabled, then it would automatically download. But if you don't, it'll just show up in your purchases tab. So it only automatically downloads to the spot where you ordered it from.
That's clever. That makes sense. So if you have automatic downloads on, they get also on the other device. Otherwise, they don't. So that explains why I didn't see the game on my iPad, but I needed to manually download it. Okay, yeah.
Right.
That makes sense. I've been pretty happy with the experience so far. You can actually track the items that you pre-order on the App Store. If you go to the Today page, there's your profile picture in the top right.
Mm-hmm.
You tap on that and you get into your iTunes account settings. There's a pre-order section. So if you tap on that, you get into a screen that shows you all your pre-order items from the App Store. And you can cancel directly from that screen.
Yep.
And you can see the price that you committed to paying for an app or a game. I think it's really well done overall. It's sort of the same system that Apple used last year with Mario, but only partially, in that when Super Mario launched, Apple put up a pre-release page on the App Store. You could see the preview of the game, you could see the description, and you could click a notify button. And the notify button was used to send you a push notification when Mario Run became available. So it kind of was if you will, the basic structure of the pre-order system. But of course, this entire new feature for iTunes Connect and for the App Store, it feels to me like Apple had a few months to work on this and to have a system that is fully fleshed out and that incorporates notifications, downloads, iTunes Connect, and the automatic downloads. So there's a bunch more features that we didn't get with Super Mario Run last year.
Right. And you can tell that this was developed, I think, in conjunction with games, because the first 7 pre-orders are all games.
Yeah. Can you tell?
Yeah. The pre-orders are available for iOS apps, tvOS apps, and Mac apps. If you go to, I checked this, if you go to the Apple TV App Store, which I don't do too often, or you go to the Mac App Store, or if you go to the Mac App Store, there are no pre-order. There's no section like they have in the Today tab. It's not being promoted yet, at least as of, I think it was last night or the night before when I last checked.
You could say there's no games on tvOS and macOS, but okay, sure. I mean, it's great that it's multi-platform, honestly. I think it's the right decision to have, at least among the app stores, this kind of feature parity. The Mac App Store, of course, is behind the iOS App Store, but it's something. So that's good news.
Couple more details to go through before we dive into some of the implications of all this is developers can hit release now at any time during their pre-order period. So if you're, I don't know, you set your pre-order for 60 days in the future and 30 days in, you've got a competitor who's copying your app and you're worried, you can hit release now and it just goes out. And anybody who pre-ordered will be charged because they already authorized the payment. So it's not a restriction. It's not like you can't release your app until the pre-order period ends, which is interesting. It requires iOS 11.2, tvOS 11.2, and macOS 10.13.2, which I was wondering, why do you think that is? Do you think that's a technical limit? I bet it's not.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It could be, I suppose. I mean, maybe it's just speculation, but it seems like one of those things that maybe is designed to help get people to upgrade.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's the reason why. Yeah, I'm not sure why that the requirement is in place. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that these are all the basics and the details that we should cover in terms of how pre-orders work.
Thanks to Spark by Riedel for sponsoring App Stories this week. Spark is smart. It's smart start with the inbox that surfaces important emails and cleans up the rest. New messages are smartly categorized into personal, notifications, and newsletters. Powerful natural language search makes it easy to find that email that you're looking for. Just search the way you would think and let Spark do the rest. Smart notifications filter out the noise, letting you know when an email is important, saving you from notification overload. Spark calendar invitations are beautiful cards that can be accepted with just one tap. Accept your calendar invitations without ever leaving Spark. You can also schedule emails to be sent later and set up follow-up reminders if someone doesn't reply to you. Quick replies get your point across quickly with just one tap, too. Love, like, or acknowledge an email in an instant. Spark looks great, too. That terrible forward and quote mess you see in a lot of emails is gone, replaced with a beautiful threaded message design. Spark is also smart about customizations. You decide which swipes do what cards are shown, and how many emails you want to see. Snooze an email and get back to it later when you have time. Snoozing works on all your Apple devices. Spark is smart about integrations. Spark supports Dropbox, Box, iCloud Drive, and more. And soon you'll enjoy Spark 2.0, Email for Teams. Spark for Teams is coming soon, and it's going to change the way teams collaborate on email, with the ability to do things like comment and discuss messages and write messages together. Thanks again to Spark by Riedel for supporting the show.
One of the points that I really want to stress out, and that I got dozens of mentions on Twitter about this, is that why does Apple feel like they need to do the Kickstarter for apps? And seriously, this is not crowdfunding on the App Store.
Yeah, not even close.
A lot of people replied to our story the other day saying some variation of, so now developers can do Kickstarter and they can scam people and sell products that don't exist. And this is not what Apple wants to offer with pre-orders. And you can see all the technical limitations and the requirements and the integration with iTunes Connect. It's obviously not meant to be give us your money before and eventually you will get a product. It's not that kind of system.
Right.
That said, so I've been thinking about this. If it's not a Kickstarter, so it's not crowdfunding, it's not just for games, it's for everybody, and it's on multiple platforms. But if it's a digital download, and in theory, you don't get any exclusive perks with the pre-order, why do them at all? This has also been a common question on Twitter since the App Store pre-orders opened up a few days ago. And we came up with a few reasons why pre-orders might be beneficial to developers and users. The first one, of course, it's the system itself. You pre-order, and then on launch day, maybe a few months later, you get a notification on your device. And the notification, I think it's great because it allows developers to pre-announce a game, or an app, which is totally common on other digital stores, like on the PlayStation Store, on Steam, for example. Announcing a title early and sort of developing in the open has kind of become common practice these days, and so many developers do it, especially when it comes to video games.
Yeah, it started probably with indie games, but it really has spread throughout the industry, and now you see it with just about every video game at this point.
Yeah. And the notification that you get on your iPhone and on your iPad is, I would say, is even better than a notification on a video game console or on a PC, which are, you don't get that many. Do you ever check your PlayStation notifications, John? Honestly,
No,
you don't.
no.
It's not like you fire up your TV and you're like, oh, let me check out what's new in my PlayStation notifications. You never do that, but you do check notifications on your iPhone and on your iPad. So having that kind of indirect communication with the customer, that maybe 2 months before they pre-order an app and then kind of forgot about it, and then you get the notification, you say, hey, your pre-order is now available and it's being downloaded on your iPhone. And I think that's just great for developers, honestly.
Oh, I agree. I mean, having tried to market an app myself, I know that one of the problems is you don't have a lot of control over the exact moment when the app launches, right?
Yeah.
Because of the propagation. And if you talk about an app before your actual launch date, you have to very carefully try to increase the level of interest so that it peaks right at the launch day, because nobody can do anything before that. And it's a problem if you're 30 days out and people get excited about your app and they can't do anything. Maybe 30 days later, they've forgotten about it and they never download it. This way you can capture those people who get excited up front and also have the benefit of the launch 30 days later.
Yeah. And speaking of which, I think honestly the biggest reason why pre-orders on the App Store make sense isn't to, of course, it's not about supply. It's not about being first in line. Even though I could see some of these invitation-only services that we sometimes see with a queue, I could see how that could work with a sort of tiered pre-order system, but that's not the case today. It's just speculation. Anyway, the biggest reason, I think, it's just marketing and just hype and announcing something early and getting, even just a few weeks or a month or a couple of months to get the word out, especially if you're an indie game developer, right? You're working on a game, you're not Electronic Arts, you're not Square Enix, you're just some guy working on a video game. And I think it's convenient to be able to have a page on the App Store saying, this is what my game will be like. And you send the link to the press and they can see the video preview on the App Store. They can see screenshots. They can see that you're actually real. It's not like you're sending them a link to your website. And if I were a video game journalist, I would say, yeah, I don't know, what is this person with this website? And even though there are some great solutions if you're a game developer to send out press kits in advance, such as, it's actually called Press Kit. It's from Rami Ismail from Beer.
It's wonderful.
Honestly, I think having a page on the App Store as a preview and then reaching out to a journalist and saying, this is what the game will be like on the App Store. This is the press kit. And if you want, I have a test flight beta for you. That's a much, much better approach than not having a pre-order on the App Store.
Yeah, it's a lot more compelling. And I do think a lot of this really has to do, too, with being able to offer customers something when they're excited and they want to buy it, because they may not get it today. It may be 30 days, 60 days in the future, but you get them to commit to pay their money now when they're excited, having seen your YouTube video or whatever it is that you put out there.
Yeah, and especially when a lot of games launch on the same day. Just this week, for example, I think we had 2-3 big releases on the same day. But by announcing with pre-orders games, even just a couple of weeks, but each on a different day, and a lot of developers, they know each other. A lot of these studios, they know each other. They can coordinate different days of the week to announce a pre-order, or they can coordinate with Apple Editorial. They have teams, they have people that actually coordinate with developers so that not all of these announcements go out on the same day. And by sort of having this trickling approach to having every single day a pre-order, it's much better for people because you just say, yeah, that's a new title I can pre-order today. It's not like 5 games that I want to buy, and now I have the paralysis of choice. I can just hit pre-order, forget about it. I feel good because it's just a $3 game. And then a couple of days later, there's another $2 game. And you know how these things go. You build up a queue of things you want. And then a few months later, because it's all tied to your credit card and to your iTunes account, you get a bunch of downloads automatically. You don't have to think about it anymore. You don't feel bad because it's like, oh yeah, this is what I did months ago. I think it's genius, honestly, to get more people to spend more money. Not in an evil way, because we're talking about apps, we're talking about games, and games that you pre-order that are paid games. Personally speaking, they don't fall into the evil category of games, stuff that, uses weird psychological schemes to get you to buy gems and sacks of money. I mean, even if you just look at the lineup of the initial pre-orders, these are quality games,
Right.
paid upfront games, quality stuff. So I think it's a great system when it comes to marketing, when it comes to a developer saying, I want to get my foot in the App Store early, and then I can reach out to people, I can build a newsletter, or I can reach out to the press, I can coordinate with Apple. There's a few reasons why beyond because, there's a comment that I also got from people, oh, why do you need a pre-order if it's a digital product? There's no supply constraint. That's not the reason why. The reason is marketing. And these days on the App Store, with so many apps and so many games, marketing is essential. And unfortunately, still too many developers don't get it. But that's another problem.
Yeah. No, I think you've really hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's interesting to me. It really is geared towards paid upfront types of apps, because in-app purchases are not part of that pre-order page. Exactly. I mean, this is not about Candy Crush and those type of, games made by King.
I didn't want to name names, but
it's not about those kind of games. It's about paid upfront stuff. It can be for free too, I suppose, but yeah, it's definitely not about in-app purchases. Thanks to Finances for sponsoring App Stories this week. Finances is a full-featured bookkeeping software app for the iPhone, iPad, and Mac. It uses a simple double-entry bookkeeping system inspired by the command line tool Ledger CLI. But what makes Finances unique is its elegant design, ease of use, and flexibility. The flexibility is absolutely key. It's just as simple to use this app for your business as it is your personal finances. And with the new year around the corner, who couldn't stand to keep better track of their finances? I know I could use all the help I can get, which is exactly what Finances can do. Transactions can be entered manually, or you could import them from your bank with a CSV file. Transactions you enter can even have documents attached to them, which is really a great feature, because you enter an expense, you can attach a PDF, for instance, of the receipt, so that when you go back months later, you know exactly what you spent the money on. You can use multiple currencies in a transaction too. So if you withdraw $100 from your bank and convert it to euros, Finances can handle it. Finances is also securely synced between your iOS devices and Mac, so your data is always with you and always safe. Finances just got a huge update. There's new UIs for both the iOS and Mac apps. There's Bitcoin support as a currency, and on the iPhone 10, you can unlock the app with Face ID. And if you're on an iPad running iOS 11, you can drag those documents into transactions and Finances. It's really easy. There's even a dark theme. Finances for iOS has been reduced to $9.99 until the end of the year. This is a great deal, and you really should jump on it. So go to financesapp.net/appstories. Again, that URL is financesapp.net/appstories. And use that URL so they know you came from the show. There'll also be a link in the show notes. Thanks again to Finances for supporting the show. I want to ask you, how do you think this cuts for apps that aren't games? Because obviously we've seen there's 7 games in this initial lineup that was in the Today tab of the App Store, but we haven't seen yet any non-game apps that have gone the pre-order route.
So as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I think it would have made more sense for those types of apps that have some kind of queuing system. Or like I remember, for example, when Mailbox launched a few years ago, and you wanted to create an account, you needed to wait in line, like a virtual line, so that the company could have time to scale their servers and to let more people in. And I think the pre-orders would have made more sense for apps in that sense of you're waiting in line until the app launches and then we'll progressively get more people in. That could still make sense if Apple ever does some kind of staged rollout on the App Store, but that's not the case. We don't have the feature today. So I think two things will happen. First, pre-orders will be more popular for games because it's become a habit of the video game industry to pre-announce games, to have teasers, trailers. You don't see trailers for apps, at least not usually, but it's common practice for games. So I think the first consequence will be pre-orders will be mostly about games. And the second one, I think, we will see developers trying to see how pre-orders work with apps, but they will probably tie that into the idea of if you get into the pre-order now and you purchase and if you pre-order an app at a certain price now, you will get it at a discounted price. And that ties into the other mini topic that we wanted to discuss of how could pre-orders work for discounted upgrades and sort of having a discounted price when an app goes live and becomes from a pre-order, it becomes a public application on the App Store.
Right. And there's an app that I have in mind thinking about this, and that is Pixelmator Pro, which just came out on the Mac, 2-3 weeks ago. And they've said that they're going to do an iPad Pro version. And if they do what they did with the Mac, they'll probably do it as a new app, right? And I can see an app with that kind of profile doing a pre-order and people getting excited about it and actually doing the pre-order. And you're right, because of the way this works and the pricing, because people commit at a certain price when the pre-order launches, if it's, say, Pixelmator Pro comes out at $10, but they say, but it's going to be $20 when we launch.
Exactly.
That's going to be a big incentive to get a lot of people in there and start pre-ordering apps.
Yeah, I could see how a lot of developers could use this strategy when it comes to apps. Not because like games that will have trailers or teasers, but as a way to get the most loyal customers or people like me, like you and I. We like to try a lot of apps. We like to support indie developers. So I think indie app developers will probably adopt this strategy of like, because they already do this, but without the pre-ordering system. And now effectively Apple is going to take care of this with things like get the app now and you get 20% off. But instead of having to do that with the App Store while the app is already live, you can do it 5-6 weeks in advance. And I think that's great. I also wonder whether somehow this system could be tied to upgrades. Like if you want to upgrade from a previous version of an app to a new one, and maybe a developer could offer the what's it called, the SK Store view controller, basically the same system that I think Johnny you're using Blink.
Yep.
That you can see App Store pages within a third-party app. And I wonder if maybe, let's say that let's use an example, Blink, and you're using Blink 1, and John is making Blink 2, and John embeds a screen, like an App Store page for the pre-order of Blink 2 into Blink 1. And there's a message in the settings of the app that says, if you tap on this and you pre-order Blink 2, you can get it at $5 instead of $7. And of course, yes, anybody could find Blink 2 on the App Store with a pre-order, but it would be an incentive to get your customers that already have the app to tap on it and to complete the upgrade, the quote-unquote upgrade, without having to leave Blink at all and search on the App Store. I think that could work.
Right. Oh, I agree. I mean, it's a way to leverage your built-in audience that you've already got for an existing app. Now, you'd have to do it as a separate app, which I think given that you can do pre-orders, there's more incentive to do a brand new app at this point to be able to do this sort of thing. So I think we're going to see more of that. But if you have a different SKU, you could absolutely do that. I mean, I reviewed this week Workouts Plus from David Smith, and David, if you go to his settings, he's got a list of his other apps in there that you can tap on, and it pulls up the store controller right there and shows you, pedometer plus and activity plus and all the other pluses, right? And
all the great pluses.
All the great pluses. Which, by the way, in Ulysses, I always have to escape those and it drives me crazy.
I know. Tell me about it.
But anyway, it's a perfect marketing tool for that sort of thing, I think.
What do you think of App Store curation and the Today section? Because I saw the other day that just as pre-orders opened up, the following morning there was a story about one of the games. I think it was Life is Strange. Mm-hmm. So basically, Apple had tied the pre-order for Life is Strange with a story, with a preview in the Today section about Life is Strange. And so I think we will see this kind of approach of you get the pre-order and you get the story. So you can read the interview now, you can probably watch a trailer, you can see a video of the developers with a bunch of screenshots, and then when you're done, at the bottom of the story, just hit the pre-order button, and in a couple of months you will get the game.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really interesting strategy.
Yeah, I think we'll see a lot of that in the App Store. And I also think it makes the App Store editorial team's job easier, because if you remember back in the day when they did the big update to Super Mario Run, and Apple said in the article that it was launching on, I forget, it was like a Friday or something, and then it launched a day early. Didn't look so great, right? I mean, there's a lot of articles out there saying, oh, Super Mario Run launches early. Mm-hmm. This, I think, makes it a little easier, because the way the pre-orders work is that when you hit launch day, you'll get the app within 24 hours. So I think it makes timing easier to do that kind of pre-launch hype without getting screwed up with time zones across the world.
Is there anything else you want to point out about pre-orders on the App Store?
I don't think so.
I'm excited, honestly.
I think
too. There was a lot of jokes, as with anything Apple does these days. The first reaction on Twitter is to joke about it, but I think it's a clever addition to iTunes Connect. I think it makes a lot of sense for video games, because it's as I said, it's totally common these days to have pre-orders for video games. But it makes sense even if you're not getting a limited edition with an action figure
right.
if you pre-order an app on the App Store. But the possibility of the combination of App Store editorial, so there's a constant stream of content leading up to a public release, and also what I think we'll see with developers testing the discounts if you buy the pre-order. I think it will be equally interesting for both apps and games. And I know that I've been spending a lot of money this week on games that are, well, in theory, I've been spending a lot of money. I still haven't been charged, which makes me feel good about it. And I guess that's exactly why Apple wanted to have this feature.
It's easy, right? You're spending tomorrow's money.
I'm spending the money of the future, which it's not here yet, so
right.
I don't feel guilty.
You just have to work
genius.
a little harder. Yeah. No, I agree. Mm-hmm. Of course, there's always a lot of snark when something like this launches, and it's not for everybody. It's definitely geared more towards games than anything else, but I do think we'll see it spread for discount reasons and so forth. But I think it's exciting. I think what we're seeing is the App Store growing up. I mean, we started with the App Store for a long time. I think the App Store was just overwhelmed for really years. When you look at this in the big picture, the App Store was such a success that it took a number of years for Apple to catch up. And now, slowly but surely, they're adding other features, and it's a little more sophisticated, and there's more interesting and complex marketing strategies that people can bring to bear, which not every one of them is going to work for every kind of app, but I think in the end, it's good for the App Store as a whole. Okay, Federico. Well, that was a good discussion about pre-orders.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to, I've ordered a few games myself, and I'm hoping that we'll see some non-games so we can see how that pans out as well. Thanks again to our sponsors today, Spark by Riedel and Finances. You can check out our show notes on appstories.net, and you can find me and Federico writing at Mac Stories and for Club Mac Stories. Federico is at Vitici on Twitter. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees, JOHN VOORHEES. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.